Hey, my name's Leon.
And I'm Pablo.
Today we're here with Jay Rebaldo. Previously had him as a guest, and one of the best episodes, listenership wise and just engagement wise. So, welcome back.
Thank you so much for inviting me back. Thank you.
Perfect. So today I want to talk a little bit about changes in the real estate market, how that's shifting. What does interest rates, all of that look like in the San Antonio market?
Yeah.
Talk about business. I think you've been in business a year and a half as a realtor, and that's running a business. So we've got a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss on today's episode.
Let's dive into it.
One talking today, and we've been texting back and forth about it. It's and I always butcher this a little bit, the NRA change.
NAR.
NAR. There we go. Always butchered it a little bit. Some three-letter soup. The fee structure's changed. So it went from like buyer agents kind of being compensated via sellers to now every buyer and buyer agent have to negotiate on that. And I'm interested to hear what guidance you have on my side. I've got a couple thoughts of like, is it good, is it bad? I think it could be both sides. So
Absolutely. The National Association of Realtors (NAR) they settled on the lawsuit. It's been several months, but it took into effect August 17th, to where the implementation is live. So ultimately, the new laws and practices in real estate is more transparency. Transparency in bringing it up to the table, talking about it with clients of how the compensation is being conducted or in full disclosure that, for example, I can't really name any exact percentages. So, but I'll throw some easy ones like 10%. Again, that's not the right one. But let's say if I'm representing the buyer, I would have a conversation of, this is my fee for my services in XYZ that I do. That's where I go through all my value proposition. And I would then say, typically, we would negotiate that with the sellers or the seller's agent to see if they're offering a cooperative compensation for the buyer's agent. And that's then discussed. And more times than not, they are offering it, and to where, okay, then we're good. But if they're not, then we will then have a conversation of how they would share the compensation for me. But ultimately also on that lawsuit, what's very critical is that for buyers, lookers, whoever they are, they need to select a realtor and sign a buyer's representation agreement to say, you can represent me to go see that house over there. You can represent me for a month, 2 months, 6 months, or even a day. Or in the agreement say, I only want to see this property, and so you can only show me that property. So what that does is it really holds a lot of accountability to our practice that we're not opening doors for anybody. So which is a good thing for those homeowners or those sellers.
Well, what I can say, just in my own neighborhood, I live in Terrell Heights, and some of the homes that were there sitting for months, I'm starting to see now that the sales are going through. So maybe it had something to do with the rates going down. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that there's an expectation that the rates were going to go down, and then when they went down half a point, people were like, oh, I'm going to take care of this now because I don't know when the next adjustment will take place again. Are you seeing that in general in your work?
Yeah, actually, so when we look at the San Antonio Board of Realtors monthly market data analysis, in August, in that month of August, the average days on market is 65 days. So meaning from the moment we go live to the moment we sign a contract and we're now off market, that's 65 days. So let's call it 2 months. And that's kind of been the average. It goes from 60 to 70 this whole year. It goes up and down. So we know that it's taken just over 2 months for houses to go under contract. But to your question, what may be, incentivizing folks to get under contract? Yeah, it's a lot of things. Loans, the interest rate based on their lender, but also sellers are negotiating to the price point that would, have their homes move. So, for example, going back to August 2024's data, from the list price to the sales price, there's that negotiation. And the negotiated sales price is 94.1, 94.2%. So that means that the sellers are giving up or offering roughly almost 6% from their original list price.
And that is different from like COVID numbers or even a year ago. Like, I'm kind of curious. What you know?
So COVID numbers, 2022 at the end of 2021, that was crazy town. Because first there was a lot of cash injected into the market.
Interest rates were low.
Interest rates were low, but also at that time the inventory was very low, so that's why it was the seller's market. Meaning, if I list my price at X number, I'm getting offers that's 5-10% even above asking price, and they're flying off the shelves, kind of thing, because the buyers want to get into the house, and some would go to the extreme of, I'll skip inspection, I'll skip the option period.
Really? I don't want inspections.
It's one of those.
COVID times, I've heard some crazy things. So on the seller side, we're talking about a change in market. It's going from a seller's market to kind of a buyer's market. Does this? It's the NRA, National Realtors Association. Does
NAR.
NAR.
National Association of Realtors.
I'm gonna get it one of these times.
Love it.
So on the seller side, is there any benefit to this? Like, is there a benefit to like having those negotiations? Like, what does that impact them on?
So on August 17th, normally on the multiple listing service, MLS, we would advertise, X% to the buyer's agent that brings me a buyer. Now that's gone, meaning we are no longer going to influence buyers or agents to come visit my house. Again, I'm representing the seller. And so now that there's no longer publicly listed, what that does is we pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm looking at your house. I'm representing the buyer. Are you offering cooperative compensation? Yes or no? More times, they say, yes, it's X%. Great. Well, we're going to schedule a showing. But if not, like in a scenario, no, we're not offering anything for the buyer. Oof. Okay, then that agent, the buyer's agent, will be like, how bad do you love this house? How bad? Because if you love it so bad, it's going to cost you an additional 3% to the buyer. So circling back to your question, what does that mean to the seller? Well, everything's negotiable.
Yeah.
Whether, if I'm a seller, whether I offer 3% to the buyer, or the buyer's then going to not offer me 3% less than I want. It's basically that 3% is going to come out of somewhere. Sorry, I'm using 3%.
Yeah. That's what it was before. So the market will kind of self-regulate in a sense. So
that's correct.
Maybe those percentages change. Maybe, and I've heard some realtors do low numbers of not percentages but set fees. I've heard that. I see it in both perspectives that. And this is the pitch that I got when I had a buyer's agent. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's going to only help you. Yeah. That I think has changed also in a business perspective for you, right? That's so right.
Nothing is free, and we believe that for many years the realtors who said, "Oh, it's free. Don't worry about it." Those folks are gone, because now it really brings out the ability to negotiate. A teammate of mine, David, used this analogy, and basically it's, when a man and woman or whatnot go on a date, traditionally, who pays?
Generally the man.
Traditionally. Yeah. That was back then. Today, When they go on a date, who pays?
It's a harder thing to say. Sometimes the woman, maybe they go Dutch.
There you go, right? So it's very similar in this compensation with real estate agents, because traditionally it was the seller offering the 3%. Now it's not always the case. It's negotiable. Now, also on that same example, how likely would if I'm the guy, how likely would the female say yes to my invitation if I told her, I'm taking care of dinner, I'm taking you out?
Yeah.
I might get a lot more yeses on my dates, right? I know.
It's a good analogy. Yeah.
But if I say, hey, you want to go on a date, but you're paying for your own? She's gonna second think, do I even really like you? Or I could go, it's similar to that. So everything's negotiable, but to the seller, it's in their best or in their better interest to offer that, because at the end of the day, you want to sell your home.
Yeah, it's all a business, and we'll get to this, but it's a business to sell the home, and price matters, the fees matter, the presentation matters, the marketing matters, all of that. So it's making it, and I'm seeing it in a different perspective a little bit, is it's making it more competitive in a lot of ways, which may or may not be good in the market we have.
Yeah, it's really forcing the conversation, the full disclosure, the transparency, and no one's ever going to make any dollar without the whole table, all parties will know. Yeah. So everything's out in the open, sure. and also discussed and agreed upon prior, so which is good.
So it rolled out September 1st, right? Or August?
August 17th.
August 17th.
It was the official effective date.
So we're a month and a half in. Yeah. Have you seen a lot more negotiations? How have you had those conversations with people? Like if I was coming to you and saying, hey, I'm a buyer, like normally it's been free, like why are you saying it's a fee?
So I work with buyers and sellers. So I've been the one picking up the phone if I'm representing the buyer. I'm the one asking first the other agent, are you offering cooperative compensation? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? I'd say about 95-99% of the time they say, yeah, it's business as usual. A lot of folks don't have an interest, let me, be the one to change it all up, and everyone is motivated to sell and everyone's motivated to buy. On the flip side, when I'm representing the seller, I've received those phone calls. From my own experience, I say, yeah, we're offering XYZ, So I haven't really seen or experienced or even heard of someone completely saying, I will not do that. But they do exist. And so when those conversations happen, we explain, okay, if you don't, then we are, limiting our pool of potential buyers that will come, and they may offer a lot less than we want. So there's just kind of like walking through the economics of it and making me realize, okay, yes, I should offer the compensation, because at the end also, the agent should ask and understand the seller, what's the motivation? Because we're always talking about, okay, do I give up, time and effort, or do I maximize the dollar? Because we're really just trading time for money. And at the end, it's about how much they walk away with. So we have to, complete a net sheet, which we calculate sales price, all the costs, any balance due with mortgage, and then we will present, here's how much you're walking away with. And so regardless of what the percent is, if that bottom line net number is satisfactory to them, then it's a moot point. They're happy. So yeah.
So with the motivation that you were saying with sellers lowering the sales figure, I mean, that directly affects the agents. They're making less money for their time, right?
If they lower the sales price, mm-hmm. Yes. But in my opinion, I want to sell we want to sell the home. If it drops, 10,000, 20,000, no agent from what I know, let me calculate this. Oh no, I don't want to do that because, I'm going to lose X number in commission. At the end, we want to sell. We want to complete that transaction. Mm-hmm. So I believe, right, ethically and just good practice is that we want to do what's right for the clients. And I promise you, the good ones that do the right things last and they succeed. The ones that want to do fast and hot, they fizzle out quickly also.
Do you see I remember when this first kind of hit the airwaves, when we had talked about it actually in the last interview.
In Q1.
Q1, that's right. When we talked about it, there was talk about the 6% becoming a 5%, splitting, between the two agents. It'd be 2.5 each, which obviously would hit both sides of the transaction. Yeah. Have you seen, or do you think that will come to pass? It does.
It does happen. It does. Agreed.
Yeah.
It does. And again, yes, we're all professionals. This is our livelihood. Mm-hmm. But I think you look at the big picture. If we're pinching and counting the smaller stuff,
make it up on volume on sales, right? Right.
Like you gotta think, how do I operate a business? Because at the end, we're looking at it holistically from the whole business of real estate. Because every realtor is a business owner, business operator, and so they're gonna look at the big picture rather than deal by deal, and I think that's what separates a lot of great agents from okay agents.
I see you have a stat sheet. You want to share some of the fun data that would-be buyers or sellers are interested in?
Yeah, thanks. So I actually brought this up earlier. I pulled this from the San Antonio Board of Realtors. Each month they release the stats in the San Antonio area, and I like to use this because it gives me, or it allows me, a way to present it to my clients, buyers or sellers, of what the current climate of or the market is. Meaning, we know what is the market sales price as compared to the original price. I mentioned that. So that tells us, be prepared. 5 to 6% is what people are going to negotiate from the original asking price. So at least we're aware of that. Be aware, it's going to take at least 2 months, maybe 3, but average, just over 2 months to get a contract on your home. We also know, how much inventory. A while ago, Leon, you mentioned, are we in a seller's market or buyer's market? Well, last month, 5.26 months. So sorry, let me rephrase that. In all of the for sale homes, it take all that holistic number, and I think, it's in the thousands. I think active, probably about 15 to 20,000 homes that are listed. It will take 5.26 months to sell all of those when no additional homes are going on live.
Such a stark difference from COVID times when it was like maybe 30 days.
Even 2 months. Yeah, 30 days, I think 30, 45 days.
Yeah, so it's a shifting market is what it seems.
Mm-hmm. And for us, we look at this as more of like a barometer of, okay, if we're in the 3 months of inventory, okay, unless that's a seller's market. And actually 3, 4, 5, that's still shifting in towards the buyer's market. When the inventory is at 6 months and higher, that's a buyer's market, meaning we've got a surplus of inventory sitting and the buyers could pick.
Now that 5 months, what you're saying, 5.26 months. That would be either home to be sold or sellers pulling the home from sale, right?
Those are all the homes that are actively on market.
Right.
And no additional ones are going live.
But those are all, I guess what I was meaning was, is that a number for that inventory to actually sell, or is it also taking into account people taking their homes off the market?
It's to sell. Like it would take 5.26 months to sell all of those for the inventory to deplete at 0.
I'm assuming that probably, as far as homes for sale, we should see that number start boosting now that, interest rates have gone down a percentage point. That's a big move.
That's the crystal ball here that we want to see. Is it are we heading into positive, like the Fed cut 0.5% point, right? Or was it 0.5%?
Yeah, 0.5%, yes.
Okay, 0.5%. That's a big change, and we talked about this before last time. is
What does that mean,
yeah,
right?
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Are things going to get to be more positive? Are we heading into a buyer's market?
So,
Should we buy in some stuff?
well, first let me take a step back. Last week, well, this month of September, and especially last week with the big announcement, Fed, cutting rates to 0.5%. What does that really mean to the consumers, the normal Joes like you and I are? Mm-hmm. It means that is a great indicator for months and months down the road, because when the Fed rate gets cut, the Fed rate is the interest rate that they give to banks to loan to banks. Yeah. And then that Fed rate is actually different from the prime rate, because the prime rate is what those banks are then lending to each other.
And that's kind of Freddie Mac they play in that, right?
Right. Okay. So Fed rate is basically the root, or like the lead for it to trickle down, and then you got Fed rate, prime rate, and then after that would be the mortgage rate, and so it takes time for it to let the cards fall into place. Mm-hmm. I have customers or clients say, "What does this mean? I'm ready to go." I was like, "Great, but where is it now?" So it's not going to happen today, tomorrow, this month, but it's going to happen in the coming months. So we know it's a positive outlook. And now what does that mean again is rates will continue to decrease, mortgage rates for consumers, end consumers like us. And so that's good, because now there's more buyers that's going to enter the pool, enter the game of buying.
More competition.
Which
is higher prices.
There you go. So when more buyers are there, then the demand increases, and then what that does is it naturally pushes the home prices to go up. So they balance each other.
Quite interesting.
Economics, exactly. And we always say, look, you could wait and save, 1% or 2%, wait and just sit, but that house is going to continue to go up. Right. For example, from 2021 to 2024, in those 3 years, home prices have steadily rose 12% month over month, year over year, without even,
And I think the average sale price, what is it in San Antonio?
The average sales price is $372,000. Yeah, on average.
It's very high.
Yeah, especially like I don't want to disparage San Antonio, but for San Antonio, which is considered a cheaper market, that's quite a pricey home, and obviously you get a bigger home a lot of times than a California house and that, but still it's a being here for a very long time, kind of hearing that, I was like, wow, that's a stark difference from.
It's risen a lot, but when you look at San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, Houston, those big ones, we're still the most affordable ones.
Sure, makes sense. I was just going to say, you mentioned Austin. I mean, Austin's massive outward flight. People are leaving Austin.
I think they're averaging 5, maybe even upwards of 600,000 on average.
But what I'm saying is that Austin is a shrinking market now. So I'm wondering if part of that shrinking is also the fact that those Austinites are starting to make their way south, because the homes are cheaper. You're getting newer developments. Right. It's nowhere near as contend as jam-packed in terms of traffic. We have bad traffic too, but Austin is on another level. Yeah. But I'm just wondering if with the home prices that already went up significantly because of COVID, the rates started going up. Obviously to slow down a hot market, because it was overheating. Now it feels like you're going to see that transition point, that inflection point between getting buyers to buy homes again, but people don't realize that when people are buying new homes, it's not just buying the homes that heats up the economy. When you buy a new home, you're buying furniture, you're buying a refrigerator, you're buying all of those, additional add-ons. Some people decide to buy new cars at that same time. It's like, hey, I'm just spending money now, right? They get into that mode, right? So
it's a mental mode.
It is. It's a mental. So it's like, okay, it has more to do than just home buying, right? It is the largest purchase that most people will make in their lifetime. Indeed. But that has a shockwave effect, right? You know, it's like, you know, dropping a huge boulder in water, you're going to get some waves, right? And those waves are also the you know, what the consumer mindset is, that they feel comfortable to spend money and they want to get all these nice new things for their brand new home. So, you know, I think the spurring of the economy, you know, particularly for San Antonio, because we've seen some slowdown here. I mean, COVID, you know, pretty much stalled downtown development for a long time. I saw many homes also that are under construction. You know, I won't name names, but we have common friends that, you know, were invested in property and in my neighborhood. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, man, that thing's been looking the same way for 9 months. You know, so it affects everything. And you know, so hopefully this means that it can start spurring the San Antonio economy again.
One thing I want to mention to kind of add on to that, Pablo, because you brought up some great points, that real estate, homes, purchases creates that ripple effect of all the other, you know, expenditure purchases that stimulates the economy, which what we want, you know, nationally. In San Antonio, what I found as I'm digging more into it is we actually have a fairly good economy because the indicators are job market. Believe it or not, San Antonio's got a strong job market, and so that right there, the jobs bring in the employees, the people to move, which really then leads to home purchases. And so I want to basically recognize and say that here in San Antonio, we're doing well, better than the other cities in that sense, because again, from the jobs, people are kind of moving from out of state, out of cities. I mean, from outside cities of Texas, and so now we are, you know, generating that the turnaround for the economy, and then real estate, home purchases, and all the rest of the consumer purchases for the homes.
It's an ecosystem. One thing, just as we were talking, is, you know, you're talking of San Antonio as a whole. Is there any particular areas? Like I've heard, you know, New Braunfels is shrinking. I've heard Austin is shrinking. I've heard, you know, like very particular neighborhoods are becoming hotter, and you know, maybe like a Kerrville's like looking more appealing, Bernie is less. So I'm curious if you, like, boots on the ground, have
Absolutely.
any like hot spots or places we should be moving to.
Well, it depends on the lifestyle of that family. Some homeowners, some family, they like the more historic San Antonio feel, you know, a little older, but yet with character. So Alamo Heights, I think it remains to be a good one. Terra Hills, Castle Hills, you know.
Terrell Heights.
Okay, Terrell Heights. And then in the outwards of 1604 Chavino Park.
Okay.
So
those are older homes too.
But people still like that, and they're you know, kind of like the very popular neighborhoods that buyers are asking about. And then you've got the ones to where we don't mind going outside of 1604 towards 46. So on the west side, when you look at the map, the west side of San Antonio, outside of 1604, along 90,
Ranch.
even more west than that.
Oh, wow.
Like
190.
Potranco, 90, on the way to Castroville.
Yeah.
That right there is booming. New builds. It's literally hot. And then also when you go look up 281, like Bulverde area, Johnson City, that's getting hot too. Bernie still, you know, well sought after. Seguin. So
We're getting a Chick-fil-A in Seguin.
Congratulations.
And I think, you know, as the expansion of developments outside 1604 all the way through Highway 46, which is the outer loop, and going back to what you said, Pablo, about Austin folks moving down, it's because that 46 is not really too far from Austin. They're like, hey, you know what? I'll move in the hill country.
I hear it a lot.
The New Braunfels area.
123, the toll road that's out there, I hear a lot of folks are like, oh, I work in Austin. And I'm like, you're pretty close to Seguin. They're like, well, it's like a 45-minute drive on a 80 mile per hour road. Well, 85 miles per hour that everyone realistically does 90. Like,
So it's quick.
yeah, it's super quick. There's no traffic that way. You get to drive past the cool Tesla factory. But to your point is San Antonio and Texas as a whole, I think the economy is not slowing as much as some of the rest of the country. Here we're downtown, we're at Geekdom. You have the Missions baseball stadium possibly being built. I know we put it in the show notes. But I think that shows like that economic development is happening. And post-COVID, that there was a little time period, I think all of us kind of talked about it, of like, ooh, downtown stalled. That's likely going to mean a lot of these companies might move out. Like there was that conversation of where does this economy shift and how does it impact? And you have Amazon saying back to work, those employees saying, maybe not. And they moved to these secondary markets and tertiary markets like San Antonio. And then they moved to the New Braunfels because they're looking for that lifestyle slower, even though the traffic is horrendous. Like, I know it's not LA bad, but
it's all relative.
It's all relative. Exactly.
I struggle with more than a 10-minute delay on a 30-minute trip. I'm losing it. I can never. So it's big shifts. One, I want to shift the conversation too. So shift. We talk about real estate as a business. We talk about the economics behind it. You've been in real estate for a year and a half. What is it? Everything you expected it to be? What's kind of like that reminiscing of like that point?
So first and foremost, and I appreciate you asking me, just kind of from my own personal, professional experience. You know where I am with my faith. So I give all glory and praise to God for me in my heart, because that was my original why of why I'm doing this. Last year, 2023, was the worst. Everyone exited. I think we lost probably like 33% of agents who did not renew their licenses. And so a lot of folks said, why did you jump in at the hardest, right? And at the same time, I said, well, I don't know any better. So if this is the hard, then this is all I know. And then I had to go to the foundation, the fundamentals, the basics of building, clientele, building a pipeline, doing the whole, building a business. And so what all the older or agents who's been around for a while and they experienced the goodness of 2021, 2022 of, they're just processing transactions. Well, when it's time to do the hard thing, they're like, oh no, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, all I know is the hard thing. So I'm doing that. And along with a lot of agents who entered from 23 to 24, it's helping us because we're literally doing what we believe is the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think your question is, how was it for me? I think I'm really grateful because this is my second career, right? So I brought 20 years of experience from corporate environments of, startups, small, medium businesses.
Sales background too.
Background of building organizations. So I think from that experience, I just said, same thing. It's the same thing, just learned a new product, which is real estate. Mm-hmm. And that's led to my value of, yes, being personable to clients and relating and being empathetic and authentic. All those are true. You can't lie. People are smart. They could feel you. And then layering that with the ability, the aptitude of like the economics, the finances, to where at the end of the day, it has to make sense for them. So I feel, and I'm very grateful that's what I was blessed to have on this. So it hasn't been easy, by no means not easy. A lot of work being done when no one's looking. But the fruits from the activities, it takes 3 to 6 months for it to come into fruition. And so I think what people are seeing is that, Jay, you're doing good. I'm like, it's marketing, sure. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of that work has been done 6 months ago. Mm-hmm.
So you said it, you made that jump to entrepreneurial lifestyle from working, 20 years in the jobs and a W-2 in some capacity. Obviously, you were in startups, it's risky and everything, but what made you make that jump to being an entrepreneur, running a business, being a realtor? Like that's what the kind of, the final question is. How did you do that? How did you know? Because we talked to a lot of founders and it runs the range. Sure. Some of them are 20 years old, They don't know what they want to do. They've kind of figured out to somebody's 40, 50 that's going like, hey, I'm starting a business. You're kind of in the middle there. Like, what was that jump?
I think for me it was really personal, like deep, like familial reasonings. I everything happens for a reason in the journey of one's profession, whether they're working for a boss, answering to them at the end, you're still working for somebody, and everyone has the reason. And for me, I was already I'm 42 now, and so later in my career, it's like, okay, now I'm starting a family, and so my reason, my why, is that God, family, then business. So that's always been my true north, and I guess it hasn't failed me. So there was before to where I put business first, and I kept running in the rat race. I know it's a very bad word, but it just felt like it's a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and I'm tired. And then who gets kind of like the short end? Family, or even our faith. But when I flipped it around, it became easier. My faith, my relationship with God, all of that being the primary, the family became stronger and closer. The relationship, the time being present. I have a 1-year-old a 12-month-old really, and I'm present, and I love that. But then the business, yes, there's a lot of work being done, but then it's coming together. It's coming together, really.
Final question in all of this is just any tips for, I would frame it, any tips for somebody that's in that same position of they haven't built something themselves or any of that just yet, but they want to take that step. Like, what would you do it? And I put it in the notes. I would say maybe a little bit of sales spin. I think you're an amazing sales guru, so I'm kind of curious to hear that tip or something.
For someone that wants to be an entrepreneur and build something their own, I would say, it's gonna sound funny, but like ego to where, meaning it's not about me and I don't care what other people think. Because many times when we're working with organizations, companies, it's like, oh, how do I perceive? How do I look? What does my boss think of me? What does my peers think of me? And so the moment that you really stop caring what others think of you and you just do what's right and care for people, things work out, things go well. And for me, again, there was a period of time to where, what would my colleagues think of me?
It's a fear of failure, I think, in some cases, right?
20 years, you build a big network in the professional corporate world, from all the different companies you work for, and what do they think? And again, that moment that I said, I don't care. I want to build what's good for me and my family, and then and really serve people. That's when it just feels like everything was coming into place. And again, the ego part is like, it's not about you anymore. It's about the people. I know it's very cliche-ish, but it's true. It's true. And I think individuals, different people will just figure it out themselves by their own experience. You could tell someone all the time, hey, it's not about you, it's about them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, sure. But yet they have a motivation of what they want for themselves until, I guess experience, wisdom teaches them, oh, yeah, that's true. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. But
I love it because it's very true. I hear from a lot of folks is the faith, the family, something played a factor into it, and I think ego is a big thing. We all got it, and I'm sure mine's a tad bigger some days than others.
You lose it as you age. I can tell you, it will soften.
it will soften. And also the humility of like, I'm going to put myself out there. The authenticity of vulnerable authenticity is actually strength, and people connect to that. Because I think on the flip side, the W-2 type jobs is a lot of posturing, like I'm better than this and I can do this, and it's a lot of, it's a lot of that.
That's how the system was built. Yeah.
Correct, and that's good and all, but it's different for people. And for me, it got to the point to where it's not about me. I'm going to serve others. So.
I love it. We appreciate it. So we'll wrap. I think we're a little over time, but really, thank you so much. We'll put your information in the show notes. If you're watching, you can go to the boost.fm to see that first episode. I'll link it into the show notes too. But again, just really thank you, and hopefully we'll have you on maybe next year and we can talk about the market there.
Yeah. Well, I also want to give y'all some recognition, some kudos, because the Boost is really growing the audience, your people searching. I have clients who's, hey, I did a research on you, Jay, and I saw your podcast. And I totally forgot. It's been 6-8 months already, and they talk about the Boost. So I said, oh wow. Yeah. So keep going, keep going. Because
that's one of the things that we thought about when we
became our testimonial.
When we became our this was a brainchild. Our brainchild as far as like looking at San Antonio as a market, and looking at it, what was happening here, business opportunities that were kind of starting to kind of develop, not just from a client standpoint, but just looking at the city as a whole, right? Back to the ego thing. This whole show is not about us, right? That's the 100%. That's the whole point. The whole point is we're supposed to be highlighting companies that are getting themselves going in San Antonio, and it gives us the opportunity. The reason we call it the Boost is because we're pushing people along, right? And the goal is that if we help them grow in one way, shape, or form, however small our contribution, in the end we all benefit. So that's always the goal.
And that is so true. As this week, I had someone ask me, who does your videos or who does your podcast? And I literally said, look up the Boost, look up DigiBoost, look at the Boost. So, because they're recognizing that your show, the premise of it is that you're not making it about you. You're literally helping your guests talk about them and what they're doing and what that means to the community. Because it's that you are a servant leader of in the podcast show industry.
First from Jay Rebaldo Realty Group. So
we're putting. I'm telling you, you're going to be on the website and you'll have a 2-minute clip of you. You'll be our new testimonial.
I text you all the time. I call you all the time. Hey, guess what? Here's what happened.
I love it. It's something. It's kind of rewarding. Like, I like having these good conversations and everything, and I think that's more of my enjoyment is that. But when you were telling me that, that's like really, it's kind of fulfilling. And then also on your side, it's like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. It's bringing you business on all those little parts. And I've heard it from others, we used it for this, or this really helped us, push in that way, make a sizzle reel or something. So I'm glad it's having an impact and not just putting our mugs on the
and people like listening, so
Well, I really appreciate it. We'll put all in the show notes, and thanks for the testimonial.
Thank you. Thanks, Pablo.
Bye.